today we're going to be making my delicious slow-cooked pulled pork, but an even better part of it is that we're going to be turning the pulled pork into burritos. So we put them all in burritos, wrap them all up, pop them in the freezer, and it is the perfect meal prep option. If you have a busy week coming up, if you just want some things ready to go that are really filling and yummy in the freezer, this is a great recipe. The pulled pork I've made for over 20 years. It's pretty foolproof and it's so tasty, but also you can turn it into many things. So today we're doing the burritos, the wrap burritos in the freezer ready for meal prep, but the pulled pork is great in rolls with mayo and coleslaw. It's great in a taco bowl. So if you wanted to make a burrito or taco bowl with all different bits and pieces, it's great to go in that. It's great with a loaded fries. So you can, roast up a whole lot of potatoes or whatever and then pop the pulled pork over it, put some cheese, get it in the oven, and then put some yummy fresh salsa on top and enjoy that. So it is pulled pork that can be made into many, many things, but it is such a beautiful recipe that I've made for a very long time and I swear by it. So let's get into it and we can have a look at how we do it all. Okay, so we've got all our ingredients here and we're ready to go. This only takes about 10 to 15 minutes to prep, which is really, really great. We've got some boneless pork shoulder. You can get that from your butcher or the supermarket. I'm going with about 2.7 kilos today, but you can get whatever you can get and then adjust the recipe accordingly. We've got some spices here. So this is just a Mexican spice. You can either do a burrito spice mix, a taco seasoning mix, whatever you kind of like. Then I've got some paprika and some dried oregano. We've got some onion and garlic, which we'll chop up in a minute. And we've got some brown sugar, some tinned tomatoes, some chicken stock, and a bit of apple cider vinegar as well. And that's it, that all gets thrown in. I'm gonna chop some onion now. And what I love about slow cookers, but especially this recipe, is it can be very rough. So there is no need to cut the onion perfectly. You can literally do that and throw it in because it will slowly break down with all the pork. And so the shape of the onion is not a big deal, which is what I love. You can just roughly chop. I'm going with 2 onions here. My onions were quite small and I've got a lot of pork. So chop those up. And then I've got 3 cloves of garlic. I'm just gonna give them, as I said, a very rough chop. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. All those onions are starting to get to me now. Onion and garlic is chopped, and then we've got our other little bits and bobs here. Now I'm just going to season and spice the pork. So just some salt and pepper. Salt and pepper all over there. And that will just give it some lovely seasoning and flavor. And then, as I said, I've got a burrito or taco seasoning mix here. So we're just gonna sprinkle that all over the flesh. If you wanted to, you could add a bit of oil here, some olive oil or something to rub it in, but I don't think it needs it. You can rub it straight onto the flesh, and I'll keep a little bit in there for the other side. And then here I've got some paprika and some dried oregano. Now we're gonna get our hands dirty and basically rub, and I often do this in the slow cooker, but I'm just doing it so you guys can clearly see it now. Rub that all over the flesh, and then it's going straight in the slow cooker. And I'll do the other side. So when you pop it in the slow cooker, you can flip it round so that you can salt, season, and spice the other side. So in it goes. Great. And then I'll use up the rest of those spices and get the other side, throw that all in, and then my Mexican spice mix or burrito mix or taco mix, whatever you want to use, throw that in. And then we do the same and we just get our hands dirty, rub it all over the flesh. So then I'm going to throw in that onion and garlic that I've chopped just on the top. Again, super relaxed. With slow cookers, they are so great. And then I've got my 400 grams of tinned tomatoes, pour that over the top. Then I've got my 1/3 cup of apple cider vinegar. That gives it a really yummy tang. Got my 1/3 cup of brown sugar. And then I'm just gonna add a little chicken stock gel cube in the top. That just gives it a whole lot of flavor, and then a little bit of water, probably about 1/4 cup for now. And we can see how it goes as it's cooking. If it's not liquidy enough, we can always add a little bit more water. So that is it. And then I get a spoon and give it a bit of a stir, but again, once the slow cooking starts and it starts to break down the pork meat, it's much easier to stir and start getting all the flavors around. I just like to give it a little bit of a mix at the start, make sure there's liquid down the bottom underneath the pork so that the bottom of the slow cooker isn't burning. And then we pop the lid on. That's it. And then it just cooks away. I usually say about 4 to 6 hours on high, or I say about 8 to 10 hours on low. And then we'll have a look at it, and then we can go from there. I wasn't gonna make you wait 10 to 12 hours. Here's one I actually prepared yesterday. So I did this one on low for 10 to 12 hours. I've just put the other one on. So I'm gonna have pulled pork coming out of my ears, which isn't the worst thing. We can just prep all the burritos, pop them in the freezer, and they're ready to go. But I want you to have a look at this. It's been 8 to 10 hours. And it smells amazing. And as you can see, so it's really broken down. The liquid's sort of thickened up. I always say if there's lots of liquid, don't worry, we'll shred it and then the meat will absorb a lot of the liquid. And if there's too much liquid left over, we can always tip a little bit out. So I'll show you a little bit. So it literally you just touch it with a fork and it's all just breaking away. So basically now we can shred the meat. Grab a plate when you're doing the shredding because I like to leave the fat on while it's slow cooking because it adds a whole lot of flavor. But then what you'll see is when the rest of the meat has broken down, the fat hasn't. So you'll need to lift it out and remove it from your slow cooker. It's a little bit gross, but it adds beautiful flavor. So see, you've just got the skin here and the fat layer underneath. So we just want to take that out. Make sure you've got all the meat though. And then we just shred. Look at this, my God. It just literally breaks apart. So good. So shred, 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 get rid of the fat, and then we're ready to use all our meat. So I've shredded my pork and I've just drained off any of the excess liquid. So this is what we've got left. It's still got some liquid in the bottom, but we don't want it to be over liquidy because otherwise you're gonna have a very soggy burrito. So I've got some canned corn here and I've also got some canned red lentil beans. You can also use black beans, you can use brown rice, you can use white rice. This is basically to pour into the pork to fill out the mix so that we get more burritos out of it. And then obviously it helps with having some legumes and some veggies added to our burritos too. And then I've just got some fresh coriander. So I'm gonna give that a chop. So chop it however, whatever size you want. I don't mind bigger chunks of coriander, but if you don't like that, then chop it nice and finely to get stirred through, okay? So this is 2 cans, but again, add how much you want. If you start to make these quite a lot, you'll work out the ratios of what you like to have in your mix. And then the red kidney beans. You can add some capsicum. So if you've got fresh capsicum, yellow, green, or red, dice that up. You can stir that through. And then I'm gonna add my fresh coriander. Oh, I just saw a little bit of, yes, some plastic, which we don't really want in our burritos, do we? Okay, and now add that in. Beautiful fresh coriander. All right, and now we're gonna give that a big stir and we're ready to wrap. So it's wrapping time. I've got my extra large burritos, which that is really important because if you go for normal size, unless you're making kid burritos, you're not gonna get much in. So you need to go the extra large size that is sort of like the size of a big dinner plate. I often use my hands with this, but because I'm, on video today, I won't. So you just grab a bit of your mix, make sure you get all your goodies, all your beans, all your corn, your coriander. And it's a bit of a messy station this, but also once you're done, then you've got, 12 to 16 burritos all wrapped up, ready to go. And it's up to you how much you want to fill them. And then cheese on top, it's just some tasty cheese. You can use whatever grated cheese you like. Perfect, and then we're gonna wrap. So we're just getting the 2 ends, bringing those in, and then we're folding over like so and tucking as tightly as we can. And then I just stack them over here and I'll keep wrapping and then I wrap them in some foil and baking paper at the end. But for now, I'm gonna keep wrapping. Okay, so now we're up to wrapping. And what I've pre-done earlier is that I've just cut some baking paper and also some foil. I like to double wrap because if you're going to freeze your burritos, you don't want them to get freeze dried or anything like that. So you need to wrap them really well so that they're nice and airtight. So your piece of baking paper and your piece of foil. And then I just grab my burrito and you do exactly what you did wrapping up the burrito. So just your 2 ends in, and this again doesn't have to be, try and keep it tightish to keep the air out, but again, it doesn't have to be the foil does a really wonderful job of keeping it nice and tight. So that's one. You can keep going with your baking paper if you like, if you're in that, or I'll just show you. You then get your foil, and same thing. You just gotta be quite gentle with the foil because it can rip really easily, and that just gets frustrating. So same thing, and then you are tucking everything in, wrapping up nice and tight. And there you've got your burrito pulled pork burrito ready to be frozen. And then I just finish off with the rest. Okay, and they are ready, and you can make, I've only just rolled 5 here for you guys to see, but the mix would probably make about 14 to 15. And just like that, they are ready to go in the freezer. So I shove them all in, stack them up, and then when I want to eat them for lunch or dinner, I pull them out. If they're going straight in the oven, you can keep them in the foil. But if you're popping them in the microwave, obviously you need to remove the foil to defrost them and then into a toasty machine or a frying pan to crisp up those edges. Okay, so I've just got my burrito out of the toasty machine. As I said, you can either do it in your toasty machine or your Breville machine, whatever you want to call it, or you can put it straight on a fry pan on the hot stove and just give it a few minutes each side until it looks like this. So let's cut it in half and see what we've got. Nice and crispy. You can smell the pork. It is just beautiful. Oh, yum. Check that out. And this is totally optional, but I always like to add a little bit of a fresh component or a little bit more veggies or that sort of thing. That's just me. You can absolutely eat it like this on its own and it is beautiful, but I often just like to whip up a very quick salsa. All it is tomatoes, red onion, coriander, and some lime juice and salt. That is totally optional, but I always like a bit of, I just drizzle it on top, and it's just a little bit of a fresh element that makes it just zingy, and you get all the beautiful pulled pork flavor with the cheese, but then you also get the salsa, which is just nice and fresh, which I always love, a little bit of a fresh component. So there you go. Now I'm going to have a taste, which is my favorite part of the whole cook. And I'm gonna get a little bit of everything. Cut up your burrito. If you've got your fresh salsa, pop some of that on there. Just gotta try and make it a somewhat okay mouthful to eat on the camera. Oh my God. These blow my mind every time I eat them. I'm not a huge meal prep girl in terms of once I've had something once or twice, I kind of get a little bit over it and I need a break, but these really quite blow my mind. They're just full of flavor, really delicious, fill you up, nice and comforting, and then I just really love that fresh factor of the salsa on there because you feel like you're having a bit of a salad, and I just think it's the perfect lunch or dinner, especially in the colder months. So hope you guys give it a go, enjoy it, and I'm gonna go eat this now and just look at it. It just looks beautiful. Can't wait.